All right, well, Sully, man, thanks for some time. I want to talk about some things with you. We've got you got a show that's going to be coming close. We got two shows. The Vibes Tour going to be kind of like straddling Houston. You got Lake Charles, and then you've got an Austin show. Um, but I really, I hope you want to talk about the documentary, dude, because wow. Number one, we're close in age, so I don't know how it happened in my life, but now that's my number one. That's my jam right now, man. Documentaries. I think that's what happens when you get old. You just watch documentaries on things,
Yeah,
especially like rock docs and stuff. And I love them. And
yeah,
I don't care. It could be Milli Vanilli.
yeah.
But when I found out that you had a doc, number one, congratulations. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Um, do do you watch many rock documentaries? Did you know
I'm
how?
in the yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm infatuated with rock docs right now. Just documentaries in general. It doesn't even have to be a rock doc. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you a real quick story on what set that trend for me is that, I think as this, especially like what happened with COVID, but I think as this world kind of has evolved sometimes, we've gotten further and further away from just communication, even with strangers. When we stand in an elevator at a casino and someone else comes in, what do? We just, like it's almost like we're feeling each other out with antennas or whatever. Like we're like little ants, but no one's like, hey, how's it going? Whatever, just small talk, right? We just very internal and closed off. Well, this one, I started trying to make a habit of like not doing that. And I've realized that everybody has a story and it's a really cool story, right? It's their story, it's their life, their experience. But I was on a plane once, and because I was kind of breaking myself of this habit of like not talking to anyone or a stranger or whatever, and trying to be a little bit more, personal with people in general. I was sitting next to this man, this little old guy, he must have been in his 80s or whatever. And of course, in any other situation, someone would sit near something like that, and they just, they would just mind their own business and not even say hi to the guy. Well, I just kind of opened up a conversation and just said, hey, whatever. And he started telling me his story through general conversation. And it fucking turns out the guy fought in Normandy. And
Oh my God.
he was going back there for the first time ever to heal his wounds and fight these demons that he's battled with his whole life since the day he stormed the beaches of Normandy. And I'm like, this is an amazing story. It goes to show you that you just never know what kind of life someone has. So if I could encourage anybody to do anything right now, I would just say, like, say hi to people. You'll be blown away with what their story is sometimes.
That's an incredible story. And another thing, like with getting to be our age, you start watching World War II stuff like there's going to be a quiz, like there's going to be a test soon. Um, so you seem you weren't afraid to show your vulnerability in this, and just from following you on social media and stuff. And I got to say this, and please take this as a compliment. But you're very natural, and sometimes you'll ham it up and stuff. You seem very, very comfortable in front of the camera. What I was blown away by is because you and I grew up in the same era, and I'm trying to make it in a band, and I'm blown away watching your stuff. I didn't have, and I don't have access to much video. I was amazed how much, you had the old VCR camera, but I was surprised how much video you had of you and your buddies growing up. It was amazing.
Yeah, well, it wasn't, that's what took the documentary so long to complete, because we've been working on this thing for like 6 years. And as you may or may not know, this was all kind of based on the memoir I put out a long time ago called The Paths We Choose, which is really not so much about my life as a rock star, but my life before that and what my life was like, how I grew up in this very violent and challenging city with a lot of racism and drugs and gangs and violence. And that's what the feature became about. So some directors and editors wanted to make this into a feature documentary, and it just, so it obviously it's hard to put 30 years of your life into a 90-minute movie, but yeah, it was one of those things where it was just about kind of showing people what life was like before the band got signed or before I was even in that band or whatever, and how music really became the thread that saved my life. So but sorry, what was your question a second ago? Because you asked me something, I don't think I answered it.
No, I was just saying that I was surprised at because like when you know we're young, maybe like one kid who had some maybe upper
Oh, the video
upper crust
footage.
parents video cameras. I was
The
surprised
video
at
footage.
how much raw old video of you and
Yeah.
your buddies there was.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting to. So that's why it took so long. It took us 6 years to finish this because we always didn't have video footage back then. We didn't grow up with cell phones and video cameras and all that. My Uncle Ray visited once in a while from Connecticut. He was kind of the rich family member that we seen once in a while, and he had a big old VC
Okay.
VHS camcorder. So he would come over. This is when there's some young footage of me playing the drums at 7 years old and all that stuff, and hanging around my house with my mom and all that. But then there was that period from like right around that time, which was like, we're talking early 70s to you know, through the 80s. We didn't have a lot of footage, and so we had to come up with reenactment stuff and, you know, literally recreate some of these scenes until we got into like the early 90s, and that's when you start to see the real us again, because, you know, this is when DV cams were starting to happen in high 8mm, and people like, they were more affordable to have a more handheld camera. So there was a lot of footage of us hanging out and partying and, you know, doing the things we did. And so that was, a lot of that was like late 80s, early 90s, but there was definitely a good chunk that we weren't able to document anything, and how to figure out how to, if we're going to tell that story, like what's the visuals we're going to show here, you know?
But you said that there were people that were cast as you. Are you involved in the casting at all? Like, did you choose who was going to play you?
I did. I actually casted and directed all the reenactment footage from the times when I grew up in Lawrence, the shotgun story, the big gang fight that happened in front of my house on Basswood Street, all that stuff, the stuff with Aaron and Lisa and all that, the relationships, all that stuff. I had the director wanted me to do it because he's like, nobody knows the story better than you. And we got direct access to the actual house that I grew up in. So when you're watching the doc, you'll see, I'll explain, this was my house growing up, but then a lot of that reenactment footage happens at that house because that's how I remembered it, in that kitchen, in that front yard, in that bedroom. So it was really a pleasure to be able to go back to that story, but not only that, but to be able to show people where it actually happened, you know, and reenact it from the core of it. That was cool.
You know, you said it's a pressure cooker. You're trying to get everything into 90 minutes, and I don't think there's anything that we could say about the documentary where it's going to be any kind of a spoiler. You really got to experience it, and you'll get the grittiness of it. And you'll get that small town and what it was like. You know, I'm a Northeastern guy. You'll get it. The one thing that I felt like, hang on a second here. You're going to realize that Sully was, and I hate to use the term just a drummer, but for most of the documentary, Sully's a drummer with long hair, right? He's the guy, and he's, you know, behind the scenes playing the kit. And then next thing you know, he's the lead singer of this band, and they call it Godsmack, and you cut your hair and that. Are you doing any singing at all prior to Godsmack? I know you're in some metal bands, and there's not a lot of background singing in that. Are you doing any singing before Godsmack?
Very, very little. Once in a while, you know, I would pull a mic around when I was playing the drums and we'd do like a Sex Pistols cover or GBH or Murphy's Law. I was big into the punk rock scene when the whole hair metal band was happening, although I did get sucked into a couple of hair metal bands, and, you know, I'm guilty of wearing spandex and eyeliner.
It's okay. We all did.
But for the most part, there were very random moments like that, and they were also not very challenging vocals, right? So like, I just kind of screamed my way through it and stuff. I didn't really know how to sing, and it wasn't anything like that. I did some Alice Cooper covers, but it wasn't really until I kind of got the frustration of, you know, just not wanting to follow anyone else's lead in a band and quitting music and coming back to it and then wanting to start my own thing, that I was like, I want to just kind of do this my way and try it my way. And I wasn't even sure if I was going to sing at that time, but I definitely was taking control of writing the music, writing the lyrics, and then I would put the drum tracks down, and then I would have like a good demo to kind of create melodies from and lyrics and whatever. And then the more I started doing that, the more I was like, you know what, it might be easier for me to find a drummer than the kind of singer I wanted for this band. Because we were just coming out of the 80s, right? And I didn't want the high-pitched singing on this stuff. I wanted it more Metallica-like. And I felt like I could probably do this if I just dive in. but boy, did I suck at the beginning. You know, I had no experience and I was not good. I will totally admit that I was really bad, but trial and error, keep practicing, figure out what works, take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Next thing you know, you develop a style. And, you know, I did have a lot of experience yelling at my girlfriends in the past. So, you know,
Yep.
that at least gave me a good, powerful voice. Now
I'll tell you what,
shit in key.
Sully pulls back the curtain, man, and he tells you everything. I mean, like when they say with the warts and everything, like it's all there for you. Now, 25 years since the debut CD, right? So we're talking, when did it come out? 99?
98.
98. Okay, so
June of 98. So we're still legitimately in the 25-year mark. As of June or July of 24, we're going to cross into the 26-year mark.
So I've always felt that it was perfect timing because you had already brought it up. You know, hair metal goes away and it kind of gets, you know, it gets blown up by the grunge movement. The grunge movement, you know, Nirvana's 92. So Kurt's already done by 94, but you still got all that influence. And then, you know, alternative really kind of kicks into high gear.
Well, the new metal started after that. Korn, Limp Bizkit.
Korn, yeah, you're right. Korn and Limp Bizkit, and then you look at Linkin Park is like 2000, and when you guys came out, I just felt like you almost started your own genre of music, and it was perfect timing. I feel because then I feel like Linkin Park really opened up the whole kind of new metal thing, you know, and
yeah,
the timing of that, you guys didn't sound like anybody else. There wasn't, you know how the record labels are always chasing a sound. I didn't feel like there was a bunch of bands doing what you were doing.
Yeah, you know, we were still trying to find ourselves too, because, you know, we were four different guys from four different parts of the country, growing up with four different kinds of music. The core of our, you know, childhood music was all the same. We all loved the you know, the staples in metal and in hard rock, the Aerosmiths, the Metallicas, the Rushes, the Black Sabbaths, you know, but we also had different influences. I grew up with like bluesy and jazzy kind of family. And so, but we were listening to different things. Some people really loved Stone Temple Pilots or Nine Inch Nails, and some people were into Metallica and Pantera. So, you know, we were bringing all these influences in when we were writing. And so I feel like the first record is a little all over the place. Even though we were lucky enough to pull some gems out of it, like Whatever and Keep Away and Voodoo. But, you know, there is a lot of different influences on that record because you could tell we were listening to a lot of different kind of bands. But then, you know, I really think the one thing I disagree on a little bit is I really think Korn is what kind of set the new metal movement, not Linkin Park.
I think they're the ground floor. I think Linkin Park is kind of like who just kicked in the door. Like, yeah. I mean, I would view Korn as the spark for sure.
Yeah. Korn came out. Limp Bizkit was out. Linkin Park, you know, was surfacing at that time. And we just kind of got lumped into that new metal movement when we were just really a hard rock band. We weren't really a new metal. So I think there was some confusion there, but I think over time people understand now we're just a hard rock band, you know, more on the classic rock side than just a metal band. You know, we've rode that metal line at times in the past stuff, but over the years we've really kind of tailored ourselves to just be a strong hard rock band.
How much, if I missed this in the documentary, I think you talk about going in and recording your demo and then getting into Newberry Comics. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, like $2,500. And then maybe you go record another song and you just kind of rubber band it to the CD.
Yeah.
That's what gets you your record deal.
Yeah.
What is the difference between what was for sale at Newberry Comics, which is a record store in the Boston area, and then what came out in your debut CD? Did they go in and rework the whole thing? Was it re-recorded?
No. So yeah, you're right. So $2,600 is what we scrounged up and borrowed from a friend to go into a studio in Boston and record 11 songs as quickly as we could, because that's all the time we had. So we literally knocked out 11 songs in 2.5 days. The guy who ran the studio, Andrew Murdoch, mixed it for us, and we had this awful album cover. And we went out, and it's different from the one people know now as the first album cover. And and then we went out, but you know, the local DJ named Rocco picked it up, started playing Keep Away. And this was prior to us even writing the song Whatever, which was really the one that broke us through. But it wasn't on the original CD. because it hadn't been written yet. So Rocco gets the CD, he listens to it, he starts blowing it up on this local radio station called WAAF, which I'm sure you know of.
Yep.
They were a very influential station in this country. They're no longer with us, but very powerful, especially in the Boston area. And so what happened was, you know, here we are printing like 1,000 CDs at a time, and we're playing these local clubs. And he starts spinning Keep Away. And the more he spins it, the more people show up at the shows. And the more people show up at the shows, the more they buy the CD out of the trunk of our car. And then we loaded it into Newbury Comics, which is a local chain of about 17 stores in New England. And then they start selling about 5 a month. And then again, the snowball effect kind of happens, right? From playing it on the radio, coming to the shows, selling more CDs request more single, they play it more on the radio, on and on it goes. And next thing you know, 5 a month turned into 100 a month, turned into 1,000 a month, turned into 1,000 a week. And next thing you know, Newbury Comics is selling more CDs a week than the national artists were. We were outselling Metallica and all the, the big label bands. So it attracted the attention of the labels, the record labels. And they were like checking on their local band. They're checking on their own bands. And they would be like, hey, how's our record doing? And they're like, oh, it's doing good. It's #2. And they're like, okay, cool. Who's #1? They're like, Godsmack. And they're like, who the fuck is Godsmack? And they're like, oh, it's a local band. And they're like, a local band, and they're doing 1,000 records a week. And they're like, yeah, they've sold about 20,000 records, on their own now. And so, of course, that's what kind of generated the whole, the whole attraction to them wanting to come see the band and signing us, because we became the buzz of Boston.
Yeah. Did they put out, how true as to what we bought on that first album is to what was available at Newbury Comics?
It's the exact same record. Okay, so what happened was, what really blew this is the part I skipped. I don't know why, but I just forgot because I'm fucking old. Basically, Rocco's spinning the song Keep Away. But during that process of more people are starting to come to the shows, more records are getting sold. In that process, we were still writing because we were still just practicing on the weekdays, and we developed that song, Whatever. I started playing this drum beat for Tony. He wrote this riff, and we just put the song together very quickly. And then we just made a separate, because the other CD was already done. We had the artwork, the photos, everything was done, packaged, ready to go. It was out in stores, being sold in the clubs. So we had to just make an additional CD, but we just literally printed the CD, put it in a white sleeve, and then elastic banded that to the whole CD. And then they started selling that at Newbury Comics. So if you bought the record, you get this bonus. I think we originated the bonus track, now that I think about it.
There you go. Take credit for that.
Nowadays on Apple, right? Don't they go like, they bait you in sometimes, like, hey, you could just buy this one song at a time, but if you buy the whole record, you get a bonus track that's not on the. See?
You guys invented it.
Maybe we did something. I don't know if we originated that, but anyways, that's kind of how it went. And then from there, Whatever is really the song that took off. And when that song took off, it attracted big audiences. Well, at least packing in the 500, 600, 700 seat nightclubs anywhere in Boston. And that drew in the record labels to see what was going on. And from there, we got a record deal, and, the rest is history.
So radio played your song, and that's what brought people to the backyard, so to speak. Radio.
Exactly. Yeah. Radio.
Yeah, it's
right. And why do you think I'm sitting here doing this with you right now? This band has been out there now as a band for almost 30 years, signed for a little over 25, and radio and touring and the fans is what gave this band success. Therefore, that's why this band always stays loyal to touring live and radio and the fans. It wasn't MTV that broke us. It wasn't the Grammys or the Billboard Awards. It was radio and hard work on the road. And so we always stay loyal to that.
I love that. And
by the way, and we thank you for being loyal to us and supporting us through this quarter of a century.
Thank you. Well, I don't know how, I think you guys have maybe headlined BuzzFest maybe 8 times now. So yeah, we've got a long history together for sure here in Houston. I did want to mention something just because you brought that up, and we're really proud of it here. We've done it 3 years now. We do something called Hometown for the Holidays. And in the month of December, we have all the local bands submit, and we pick 10 bands. and once an hour. So that means 10 bands. You're going to get played twice a day in the month of December. We play local music on this radio station in Houston, Texas, the fourth biggest city in America.
Nice.
It's so much fun. Everybody loves it. It plugs you into the community. And I know it doesn't happen like that anymore because I was going to steer into this. The climate, the landscape, and everything is so different. I'm sure you still get a ton of young people. Dude, I want to make it. That phrase is said in your documentary because when we were young and I was playing the drums, man, I'm gonna make it. I don't care what happens, I'm gonna make it. And whatever making it means now, I know for you and for me, you were trying to chase that record contract, and I don't know how important that still is, but what do you tell young people? I mean, do you just tell them, hey, just go out there and get a bunch of TikTok followers and hopefully the rest falls into place? I wouldn't even know what to say to a young band.
I struggle with it too. I also have a daughter who's 22. And so she grew up with the social media thing. And, she's an influencer. She does a lot of branding deals. She works TikTok. She works Instagram. And she does pretty well for herself. But a lot of times, as much as I've learned about that culture, I don't understand it as much as I understand the only way I knew how to do it when I was growing up, which was just boots to the ground, right? And like working really hard, preparing yourself for disappointment, which is I think one of the biggest things parents forget to do with their children these days. Everyone gets the fucking trophy, right? So it's like, what about disappointment? Are you preparing them for disappointment? Because whether you like it or not, and whether we enjoy seeing our kids defeated or in pain or disappointed, nobody loves that, but it's going to happen. It's part of fucking life. So you better prepare them on how to handle it instead of letting them go down the hole of severe depression and suicidal tendencies. And they're in this fog and they don't know how to handle that they didn't get the job interview or they got fired or maybe no one showed up at their show or bought their painting. Like, it's going to happen. So the biggest and most important message is like prepare people for disappointment because it'll happen over and over again. But, and why I feel the documentary is critical for people to see, forget about me and my story and my craziness, right? Enjoy those stories for the entertainment of it. The message in the documentary is perseverance. It's about how many times can life kick you down? How many times can you be at the bottom, scraping on your hands and knees and have the strength to reach down inside yourself and find that inner strength and rise above again and walk through it to get to the other side? That is what's going to help you become successful. That's where you're going to find happiness. And most likely, that's where you're going to find a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's just a son of a bitch getting there. Now,
I think that
let me say one more thing on that. If you are one of the lucky ones in that elite, less than 1% group, like we were, to be able to get a record deal, awesome. You put in your work, you got to where you want to go, respect it, honor it, be loyal to it, and continue to work hard, and you'll always maintain it. But not everybody is as lucky as just getting it. Sometimes someone goes on the internet and they're just super talented or handsome or whatever it is, and they blow up and they were like, wow, that was super easy. Well, don't think that's going to happen to all of you. If it does, great. But if it doesn't, know that the answer is, are you strong enough to roll your sleeves up, get dirty, and get back into the grind? Because that's how most people find whatever their version of success is.
Yeah, I really think that's the strongest message because at one point, and again, I'm not giving anything away. I think we're going to get so many eyes on this documentary right now, but at some point you just, you lose your job, you're in a band, you're playing the drums and they're signed to, a bullshit contract, but still you're working with a band now that has a record deal. And then at some point you're done with music, and you had to find yourself, chop off all your hair, and then you kind of totally reinvent yourself. And I do think that the message was no one was going to outwork you. And, it's like that with any job. I mean, everybody wants to be the host of the morning show. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Right.
I mean, it goes with all these jobs, everybody would do it if it was easy. And it's like, it doesn't matter what it is you're doing. You just got to be the person that's going to outwork everybody. And then you hope that it works out, but you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the best at it. but you have to be the hardest worker at it. And that's
Yeah.
what I got from the documentary. And that's where I just related to so much about it. And I can't say enough about it. And I've watched every music documentary out there. I've watched them all.
And also find your passion. Like, you know, you can just kind of submit to the fact that you go, whoa, that's not me. And I'm just going to like, I have to just do the regular guy thing. And I'm going to go work at the UPS warehouse and schlep boxes all day. You're passionate about something. I don't know what it is. It could be growing a garden in your backyard, or it could be wanting to be a Hollywood actor. Like, I don't know what level of passion you have for what. Some people are infatuated with biology. Some people are infatuated with history. Whatever it is, go after it, because the real win-win is when you can do something for your career and make money and support your bills, doing something that you love and you're passionate about. Then you want to work hard, and it doesn't feel quite like hard work, right? So people tell me all the time, like, your schedule is insane. How do you continue to do this in your mid-50s? And I'm like, because I love what I do. I don't feel like coming to rehearsal, which is I'm at right now, a job. I'm going to do this for free. And I did it for free for a long time in the garages and basements of people's homes, because I love music. I love the way it makes me feel when we play it. Thankfully, we worked hard enough and it paid off. And now I can pay my bills and put my daughter through college. So my advice is find your passion. Go after that first. If you got to work some waitressing jobs in the meantime or whatever, cool. Make your bills, do what you got to do, but don't give up on what you love the most, because there's a career in that too.
Totally shifting gears again, documentary. I was waiting for the scene of you in the gym. They do show you jogging a couple of times. You're out there running. You've always been a guy that's been in wicked shape. And I don't know if it's genetics. I don't know what it is with you, but I was waiting for you in the weight room scene, and it never came in the documentary. And I got to ask you, what do you do?
Well, at the very beginning, it shows me in the boxing gym.
Well, yeah, you are boxing. That's right. Okay. But that seemed
That's
like
what
just
I
to
do.
survive. That seemed like it was survival in your neighborhood.
Yeah, well, that too. But that's what I also am passionate about. I love the sport. I love training as a boxer. It's surprising I never actually became a pro fighter because of the environment I grew up in. But I've always taken that with me, and I love the art of boxing. And it's also, I feel, one of the best conditioning workouts you can do. There is running, being in running shape. Like, there's a lot of runners out there. They can run marathons, but it's different than boxing conditioning. I don't care how long you can run for. You start hitting a bag for 3 minutes and you're going to suck wind real quick. So there's a big difference between like being in gym shape or running shape or in boxing shape. And because of what I do on stage, for me, I feel like the boxing conditioning is what I need the most, because the cardio is really intense.
Can you do the fucking crazy Rocky Balboa jump rope?
Yeah.
Why isn't that on your Instagram? Come on.
I know.
I want to see that.
Maybe I'll stop putting some of that stuff out. I used to dabble in that a little bit and put some funny clips on there in the gym. I was goofing around and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I could go through my workouts with people and see if they want to do them. But I don't know. I do it for me, and I do it to stay in shape and stay conditioned. It's not easy. Like, the workouts I do aren't always easy either. So like, it wouldn't be for everybody, but I can certainly show people what I do at times and see if they want to tag along.
Well, now listen, anybody that's been to a Godsmack show, that'll keep you in shape, or you have to be in shape to be running around the amount of activity on stage. So this is perfect. You got the Godsmack Vibes Tour, and it seems to be, it's a little bit more pared down. I don't know if we're going less pyro. I don't know if you're sitting on a bar stool. I don't know what's going on. Tell me about paring these songs down. And like, I mean, the Vibes Tour is probably a perfect name for it, but I still think there's a lot of people that have to have you explain it to them.
It really is, I think, the perfect name for it, and I'll tell you why. But before I do that and we get off this documentary topic, I just want to shout out to the Texas metalheads, because our investors are right there in Houston.
Really?
It helped us fund this documentary to even have a chance at putting it out. So I just want to give a big shout out to the Texas metalheads out there in Houston who helped fund and put together this feature documentary for me, because
that is awesome.
I know they're all rock and roll fans and they've got to be listening to your station. So there it is. Vibes Tour is called the Vibes Tour because we really want to not so much strip it down and be playing acoustic. There will be some acoustic performances, but there's also going to be electric performances. There's going to be some really cool vibey covers, but and some storytelling and things like that. You know, try to answer some questions and talk about some events and things that are personal to us, or what these stories were about when we wrote them and what they meant to us. You know, and give some people some behind the scenes looks on that stuff. But it's really about taking the audience on a musical journey, a kind of journey that we have fell in love with over the years growing up, when we went to see our favorite bands like Pink Floyd and Rush and things like that. So, you know, when you go see bands like that, they take you on this, it's an experience. It's much more than just watching a band perform on stage. And so we're hoping we can enlighten people to what a gift music really is in all of our lives, whether you're a DJ, whether you're a musician, whether you're just a fan and love listening to music. We all experience music in a certain way, but it goes so much deeper than that. And I want people from this show to be able to leave there thinking and feeling music a little bit differently than they normally do, and never taking it for granted, because it really is a universal healer for all of us. And how we listen and how we feel music is our own personal experience. So that's what we're hoping to create and share with the audiences.
So is this just truly just something that you're going to try out and you're going to go out and do? Is there any, okay, I'm just going to ask it. Is there any winding down on this band?
Well, you know, this is a wind down. Theaters.
Okay. But I mean, but does it crank back up to the pyro and everything and the double drum solo and all that?
Not on this tour, not on the Vibes
Not on this tour.
But yeah, but yes. Also, this is designed to help give us a break without us taking too much time away from the live shows. We haven't done this since 2004. We did an acoustic tour back in 2004. It went over really well. We got a lot of requests to do it again over the last 20 years. We just didn't have the time to do it. We were putting out new records, touring on the bigger stages, bringing out all the bells and whistles. So this is nice for us too, because we just finished a gnarly, hard year of touring on the big stages, putting on a big Godsmack show. So this is a chance for us to kind of like play other kinds of music that we also like, that are not only in our catalog, but some really fun covers that we've enjoyed over the years. It's a good show to bring your mom to, or your wife, or your girlfriend, have a glass of wine, chill, sit back, and just enjoy a really beautiful night of music and stories. So it's a physical break for us too.
Yeah.
By July, I'm sure we're ramping shit back up, and we'll be on the big stages again and finishing up the year in the big rooms. But yeah, this is just, you know, something fun to do in the meantime without killing ourselves.
And you know, you mentioned the audience, but what you didn't mention were kids. And now you're seeing it, and I know, and you do a great job, because you brought a little girl up here in Houston, and I see some other shows. You know, now, you know, we are of age, we are Godsmack fans, and now we're bringing our kids. The next generation is being, you know, ushered into Godsmack. There's a lot of kids at these shows now.
Totally. Yeah. And I love that. You know,
wild.
I think the Legends record really kind of opened up that, because Bulletproof, Under Your Scars, Unforgettable, those kind of songs really like opened that door to a little bit more of the mainstream audience. And now we're seeing, you know, more and more moms and dads with their kids there, and exposing them to the music that they grew up with. So it's really, it's surreal, man, but it's like, it's kind of cool to see live in our life this new generation flipping and coming into our world, right? So like sometimes you hear about it in the past, you go, oh, there was generations through Zeppelin and all this stuff, but we're watching it happen live right in front of our faces, and it's really cool to see it, actually.
It's because it's a testament to how long the band's been around. You're eligible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame right now. 25 years, bro. So we'll see. All right, listen, I appreciate all the time.